The courtroom in downtown Phoenix fell silent as Judge Margaret Sullivan asked the question that would change everything. "Mrs. Bennett, do you have any evidence to support your claim that you are fit to care for your children?" Rachel Bennett stood there, her hands trembling, her lawyer having abandoned her case just 48 hours earlier. Her soon-to-be ex-husband, Preston Bennett, sat at the opposing table with his attorney, Dexter Kane, a smirk barely concealed on his face. Preston had money, connections, and 3 psychiatrists willing to testify that Rachel was unstable, neglectful, and dangerous to their 2 children, 6-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Noah. "I do, Your Honor," Rachel said, her voice cracking but steady. "I have 12 weeks of nanny cam footage." The smirk vanished from Preston's face. None of them knew that what Rachel was about to reveal would not only destroy Preston's custody case, but expose a conspiracy that reached far beyond a bitter divorce. It would unravel a network of corruption involving Child Protective Services, a family court judge, and a scheme that had been stealing children from loving mothers for profit. Before we dive into this explosive story of betrayal, manipulation, and a mother's fierce love, let me know in the comments what you would do if someone tried to take your children from you based on lies. And also, let me know where you are watching from. Please subscribe to help us grow. We bring you real accounts of people who fought back against impossible odds and won. Kindly hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's go back to where it all started, 6 months before that courtroom confrontation when Rachel Bennett's seemingly perfect life began to crumble. Rachel Bennett had believed she was living the American dream. A beautiful home in Scottsdale, Arizona, with a pool in the backyard and mountain views from every window. 2 healthy, happy children. A husband who was a successful commercial real estate developer. She had left her career as a pediatric nurse to stay home with Emma and Noah, a decision she and Preston had made together. Or so she thought. It was a Tuesday morning in late March when everything changed. Rachel was making breakfast, Emma's favorite blueberry pancakes, while Noah played with his toy trucks on the kitchen floor. The Arizona sun poured through the windows, warm and golden. Preston came downstairs already dressed in his suit, his face cold and distant. "I'm filing for divorce, Rachel," he said, not looking at her, "and I'm seeking full custody of the kids." Rachel's hands froze over the griddle. "What? Preston, what are you talking about? You've become unstable, Rachel. Everyone can see it. You're neglectful, you're angry all the time, and frankly, I don't think you're capable of taking care of them anymore." "That's insane. I take care of them every single day. My attorney will be in touch." He grabbed his briefcase and walked toward the door. "I'm staying at the Kierland. Don't try to contact me." And just like that, he was gone. Rachel stood in the kitchen, pancake batter dripping from the spatula in her hand, trying to process what had just happened. Emma looked up from her coloring book, her brown eyes wide with confusion. "Mommy, why did Daddy leave angry?" Rachel forced a smile, kneeling down to Emma's level. "Daddy just has some work stuff on his mind, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay." But Rachel knew nothing was okay, and it was about to get much, much worse. 2 days later, a woman from Arizona Child Protective Services arrived at Rachel's door. Her name was Gloria Winters, a thin woman in her 50s with steel gray hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. "Mrs. Bennett, we received a report that your children may be in an unsafe environment. I need to conduct a home inspection and speak with Emma and Noah." Rachel's blood ran cold. "A report? From who?" "I'm not at liberty to say. May I come in?" Rachel had no choice. She let Gloria inside, watching as the woman walked through every room of her home, opening cabinets, inspecting the refrigerator, taking notes on a clipboard. Emma and Noah sat on the couch, frightened and confused, while Gloria asked them questions in a tone that was anything but gentle. Do you ever go to bed hungry? Does Mommy ever leave you alone? Has Mommy ever hurt you? Both children shook their heads, clinging to each other. Rachel wanted to scream, to throw this woman out of her house, but she knew that would only make things worse. After an hour, Gloria closed her notebook and, Mrs. Bennett, I'm not removing the children today, but this case will remain open. I'll be conducting follow-up visits. I suggest you cooperate fully. When she left, Rachel collapsed on the floor and cried for the first time since Preston had walked out. Emma crawled into her lap, small arms wrapping around her neck. It's okay, Mommy. I told her you're the best mommy in the whole world. That was when Rachel made a decision. If they were going to try to paint her as an unfit mother, she was going to document every single moment of her life with her children. She was going to prove beyond any doubt exactly what kind of mother she was. The next morning, Rachel drove to a tech store in Tempe and bought 4 high-definition nanny cams. She installed them in the living room, kitchen, playroom, and the hallway outside the children's bedrooms. Every moment would be recorded. Every meal, every bath time, every bedtime story, every scraped knee kissed better of, every tears wiped away, all of it. She had no idea that these cameras would capture far more than just her daily routine. They would capture the truth about what Preston was really doing.
The first 3 weeks were exhausting. Rachel documented everything meticulously. She kept a journal with timestamps, matching them to the camera footage. She photographed every meal she prepared, every educational activity, every doctor's appointment. She was determined to create an unbreakable record. But Preston's attacks were escalating. His attorney, Dexter Kane, filed motion after motion, each one more vicious than the last. They claimed Rachel had a history of mental instability. They said she was neglecting the children's education. They even claimed she was abusing prescription medication, a complete fabrication. Rachel's attorney, a kind older man named Howard Vance, did his best, but he was outmatched. Kane was one of the most expensive family law attorneys in Arizona, with a reputation for winning custody battles at any cost. Howard was semi-retired, working mostly pro bono cases. He simply didn't have the resources to fight back effectively. Then, in the 5th week, something happened that changed everything. Rachel was reviewing footage from the previous night when she noticed something odd. At 11:47 p.m., long after the children were asleep, Preston had used his key to enter the house. She watched on the screen as he moved quietly through the downstairs, not checking on the children, not gathering belongings, but doing something else entirely. He was planting things. Rachel's heart pounded as she watched him place an empty wine bottle in the recycling bin, even though Rachel hadn't had a drink in months. He left a half-empty pill bottle on the bathroom counter, labeled with a medication Rachel had never taken. He moved through the house like a ghost, staging evidence of a mother in crisis. But that wasn't the worst part. At 11:52 p.m., Preston pulled out his phone and made a call. Rachel couldn't hear what he was saying on the footage, but she watched his lips move, watched him gesture at the evidence he'd planted. He was on the phone for 7 minutes. When he left, Rachel sat back, her mind racing. Preston wasn't just trying to win custody, he was actively framing her. He was manufacturing evidence to support his claims that she was unfit. And if he was willing to do this, what else was he capable of? Rachel spent the rest of the night downloading and backing up every second of footage to 3 separate encrypted drives. One she kept in her home safe, one she gave to her sister, Vanessa, who lived in Flagstaff, and one she mailed to a secure storage facility in Tucson. She wasn't taking any chances. The custody evaluation was scheduled for the 7th week. A court-appointed psychologist, Dr. Leonard Strauss, would spend 3 days with each parent, observing their interactions with the children and assessing their fitness. Preston went first. Rachel wasn't allowed to know what happened during his evaluation, but she could imagine. Preston was charming, successful, and convincing. He would have played the role of the concerned father perfectly. When it was Rachel's turn, Dr. Strauss arrived at her home on a Monday morning. He was a tall, thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and the demeanor of someone who had already made up his mind. For 3 days, Rachel showed him everything. She walked him through the children's routines. She showed them their artwork, their school projects, their medical records. She demonstrated how she helped Emma with her reading and how she worked with Noah on his speech development. She cooked meals, played games, and showed Dr. Strauss that her entire life revolved around being the best mother she could be. But Dr. Strauss barely looked up from his notepad. He asked questions that felt like traps. Mrs. Bennett, would you say you have trouble controlling your emotions? Do you ever feel resentful that you gave up your career? Do you ever feel resentful that you gave up your career? Do you notice the children seem anxious around you? On the 3rd day, as Dr. Strauss was preparing to leave, Emma ran up to him with a drawing she'd made. "This is my family," she said, pointing to the crayon figures. "That's Mommy, that's me, and that's Noah. We're at the park." Dr. Strauss looked at the drawing. "Where's your daddy?" Emma's face fell. "Daddy doesn't come to the park with us anymore. He's always at work." Dr. Strauss made a note and left without another word. 2 weeks later, his report came back. It was devastating. According to Dr. Strauss, Rachel showed signs of anxiety, depression, and difficulty coping with stress. He recommended that Preston be awarded primary custody, with Rachel receiving supervised visitation only. Rachel read the report 3 times, her hands shaking. Everything she'd shown him, everything she'd proven meant nothing. The evaluation had been a formality. The decision had already been made. That night, Rachel called Howard Vance. "They're going to take my children. Howard, please, tell me the truth. Can we win?" There was a long silence on the other end. "I don't know." Rachel hung up and sat in the dark living room, the house too quiet without the sound of children playing. She pulled up the nanny cam footage on her laptop, scrolling through weeks of recordings. Somewhere in all of this, there had to be something that could help her. And then she found it. Before we continue with what Rachel discovered, I need you to do something right now. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, if you're rooting for Rachel and want to see how she takes down everyone who tried to destroy her, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think Preston deserves. And please subscribe to Hidden Truth Stories with notifications turned on, because the next part of this story is going to blow your mind. We're about to reveal evidence so damning that it didn't just end Preston's custody case, it ended his freedom. Don't go anywhere. Let's get back to the footage that changed everything. It was hidden in a recording from week 8, a Thursday afternoon when Rachel had taken the children to occupational therapy for Noah. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. Preston had entered the house again, but this time he wasn't alone. A woman walked in behind him. She was younger, blonde, dressed in expensive athletic wear. Rachel recognized her immediately. Kelsey Whitmore, Preston's executive assistant. They'd met at a company Christmas party 2 years ago. But Kelsey wasn't there to assist with anything work-related. Rachel watched, her stomach turning, as Preston and Kelsey walked through the house, not even trying to hide what they were doing. They went upstairs to the master bedroom, Rachel and Preston's bedroom, and what happened next made Rachel want to put her fist through the laptop screen. But that wasn't what mattered for the custody case. What mattered came 20 minutes later, after they came back downstairs. Preston and Kelsey sat on the couch, the very couch where Rachel read bedtime stories to Emma and Noah every night, and they had a conversation. Rachel had audio on all her cameras. "So the lawyer says it's almost done," Preston said, his voice clear on the recording. "Strauss came through like we paid him to. His report was perfect." Rachel's blood turned to ice. "You paid the psychologist?" Kelsey asked. "Not directly. Kane handled it. $50,000 through some consulting company. Strauss writes reports for Kane all the time. It's how this works. Kane gets his clients custody and everyone gets paid." "What about the CPS woman?" Preston laughed. Gloria? She's been on Kane's payroll for years. She does maybe 20 of these a year, files bogus reports, does intimidating home visits, creates a paper trail that makes the mother look unstable. Then Kane uses it all in court. It's a system. Kelsey leaned back, shaking her head. It's kind of genius. So you get the kids, and Rachel gets what? Supervised visits? If she's lucky. Kane says we can probably get it down to once a month, and once I have full custody, I can move them to California. Rachel won't be able to afford to fight me there. She'll fade away, and in a few years, the kids won't even remember her. The cruelty in his voice was suffocating. This was the man Rachel had loved, the man she'd built a life with, the father of her children, and he was casually discussing erasing her from their lives as if she were nothing. "And then what?" Kelsey asked. "You and me?" Preston pulled her closer. "You move in, we get married, you become their stepmom. It's what I've wanted for a year now. I just needed to get rid of Rachel first." Rachel paused the video. Her hands were shaking so badly she barely controlled the mouse. She had it. She had everything. Preston admitting to bribing the court-appointed psychologist, Preston admitting to conspiring with his attorney and a CPS caseworker, Preston admitting that this entire custody battle was a fraud designed to steal her children. But she knew she had to be smart. If she revealed this evidence too early, Kane would find a way to suppress it, discredit it, or claim it was obtained illegally. She needed to wait for exactly the right moment. And she needed to find out just how deep this conspiracy went. Over the next 3 weeks, Rachel became an investigator. She used what little money she had left to hire a private investigator named Troy Nichols, a former Phoenix police detective who specialized in family law cases. She showed Troy the footage of Preston and explained what she'd discovered. Troy's face darkened as he watched. "You've got enough here to bury him, but if what he's saying is true about Kane and this CPS worker, this is bigger than just your case." "What do you mean?" "If Kane is paying off psychologists and CPS workers to manufacture evidence, he's probably doing it in other cases too. This could be a full-scale custody trafficking operation." Rachel felt sick. Custody trafficking? It's rare, but it happens. Corrupt attorneys, psychologists, and social workers work together to take kids away from fit parents, usually mothers, and give them to the parent who can pay the most. Sometimes there's abuse involved, sometimes it's just about money. Either way, it destroys families. Troy pulled out his laptop. "Let me do some digging. I want to see how many cases Kane and Strauss have worked together, and I want to find out who else Gloria Winters has filed reports against." What Troy discovered over the next 2 weeks was staggering. In the past 5 years, Dexter Kane had represented 43 fathers in custody battles in Maricopa County. Of those 43 cases, Dr. Leonard Strauss had been the court-appointed psychologist in 38 of those cases, and in 36 of those cases, the father had won primary custody. Gloria Winters had filed CPS reports in 27 of those cases, 27 families where a mother had been reported for neglect, abuse, or instability, creating the paper trail Kane needed to win in court. "This is organized," Troy said, laying out the documents on Rachel's dining room table. "This is a machine. Kane finds wealthy fathers who want custody, usually because of affairs or new relationships. He brings in Strauss and Winters. They manufacture evidence. The father wins. Kane gets a fortune. Strauss and Winters get their cuts, and the mothers lose everything." Rachel stared at the evidence, her mind reeling. How is this possible? How has no one caught them? "Because the mothers don't have money to fight back," Troy said, "and even when they try, they're up against a system that's already rigged against them. Family court is one of the most corrupt systems in the country. Most people don't realize it until it's too late." "Well, it's going to stop," Rachel said, her voice hard, "at least in my case, and if we can take Kane down, maybe we can save other families too." Troy nodded. Then we need to be strategic. We can't just walk into court with this. We need to coordinate with someone who has the power to investigate. Like who? Like the FBI. It took Troy 3 days to get a meeting with Special Agent Nicole Harper, who led the FBI's Public Corruption Unit in Phoenix. Rachel, Troy, and Howard Vance sat in a secure conference room at the FBI field office, presenting everything they had. Agent Harper watched the footage of Preston and Kelsey in silence, her expression unreadable. When it finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Mrs. Bennett, what you've captured here is significant. If these allegations are true, we're looking at racketeering, bribery, and conspiracy charges. But I need to be clear, this investigation will take time. We can't just arrest Kane tomorrow." "But my custody hearing is in 2 weeks," Rachel said, her voice rising. "If I don't stop this now, I lose my children." Agent Harper exchanged a glance with another agent in the room, a younger man named Philip Santos. "We can expedite certain aspects of the investigation, but you'll need to play along for now. Go to your hearing, let Kane think he's winning. Meanwhile, we'll be building a federal case. You want me to risk losing my kids so you can build a case? I want you to trust that we're going to bring these people to justice," Harper said firmly. "And in the meantime, you'll have that footage as your insurance policy. When the right moment comes, you reveal it in court, and we'll be ready to move." Rachel looked at Howard. He nodded slowly. "It's the best option we have." Rachel took a deep breath. "Okay, but if this goes wrong—" "It won't," Agent Harper said. "You have my word." The custody hearing was set for a Tuesday morning in mid-September at the Maricopa County Family Court in downtown Phoenix. Rachel arrived early, her stomach in knots. Howard Vance was beside her, carrying a briefcase that contained copies of the Nanny cam footage, all meticulously organized and time-stamped. Preston arrived 20 minutes later with Dexter Kane, looking confident and smug. Kelsey Whitmore wasn't with him, but Rachel knew she was probably waiting somewhere nearby, ready to celebrate when Preston won. Judge Margaret Sullivan took the bench. She was a stern woman in her early 60s, known for running a nonsense courtroom. Rachel had heard that Sullivan didn't like delays, didn't like theatrics, and didn't like being lied to. Good, Rachel thought, because she was about to expose the biggest lie of all. Kane presented his case first. He called Dr. Strauss to the stand, who testified that Rachel was emotionally unstable, prone to outbursts, and incapable of providing a safe environment for the children. He recommended Preston receive full custody. Kane then called Gloria Winters, who testified that she had observed concerning behavior during her home visits, including an unkempt house, inadequate food, and children who seemed fearful of their mother. All lies, every single word. Rachel sat there, forcing herself to stay calm, even as her hands clenched into fists under the table. Not yet, she told herself. Wait for the right moment. When it was Howard's turn, he stood slowly, like a man who had done this 1,000 times. He called Rachel to the stand. "Mrs. Bennett," Howard began, "you've heard some very serious accusations today. How do you respond?" "They're all lies," Rachel said, her voice steady. "Every single one." Kane smirked from his table. Judge Sullivan looked skeptical. "Mrs. Bennett," the judge said, "do you have any evidence to support your claim that you are fit to care for your children?" This was it, the moment Rachel had been waiting for. "I do, Your Honor," Rachel said. "I have 12 weeks of nanny cam footage." The smirk vanished from Preston's face. Rachel had prepared for this. She had worked with Troy and a video editor to create a compilation, the best moments of her caring for Emma and Noah, interspersed with the footage of Preston planting evidence and conspiring with Kelsey.
The courtroom went silent as the video played on the large monitor. Every person in that room watched as Rachel cooked meals, helped with homework, kissed scraped knees, read bedtime stories, and loved her children with every fiber of her being. And then they watched as Preston broke into the house, planted fake evidence, and admitted on camera that he had bribed Dr. Strauss and conspired with Gloria Winters to frame Rachel. The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Sullivan's face had gone from skeptical to furious. She looked at Kane. "Counselor, would you like to explain what I just saw?" Kane stood, his face pale. "Your Honor, I had no knowledge of—" "You're telling me you didn't know your client was bribing the court-appointed psychologist, the same psychologist you've worked with in dozens of cases?" Kane said nothing. Judge Sullivan turned to Dr. Strauss, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "Dr. Strauss, did you accept payment from Mr. Kane or his client in exchange for your report?" Strauss opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew he was caught. "I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right, Your Honor." The courtroom erupted. Judge Sullivan slammed her gavel. "Order! Everyone sit down." She turned to Gloria Winters, who was already halfway out of her seat, trying to leave. "Miss Winters, sit down. You're not going anywhere." Gloria froze. Judge Sullivan looked at Agent Harper, who had been sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom. Harper stood and walked forward, badge in hand. "Your Honor, I'm Special Agent Nicole Harper with the FBI. We've been investigating allegations of corruption in family court proceedings. Based on the evidence presented today, we're prepared to take several individuals into custody." Within minutes, FBI agents flooded the courtroom. Dr. Leonard Strauss was arrested for bribery and conspiracy. Gloria Winters was arrested for fraud and deprivation of rights under color of law. And Dexter Kane, despite his protests, was led out in handcuffs for racketeering. Preston tried to run. He actually tried to bolt from the courtroom, but 2 agents stopped him at the door. He was arrested for conspiracy, fraud, and breaking and entering. As they led him past Rachel, he looked at her, his face twisted with rage. "You destroyed me." Rachel met his eyes, her voice calm and cold. "No, Preston, you destroyed yourself." Judge Sullivan dismissed all of Preston's custody claims and awarded Rachel full legal and physical custody of Emma and Noah. Preston was granted supervised visitation only, pending the outcome of the criminal trial. But the story didn't end there. Over the next 6 months, the FBI's investigation revealed the full scope of the corruption. Dexter Kane had been running his custody scheme for over a decade, involving not just Strauss and Winters, but 2 other psychologists, 3 CPS caseworkers, and even a family court judge in Pima County who had been taking kickbacks. In total, 47 families had been affected. 47 mothers who had lost their children to a rigged system. Rachel became an advocate. She started a nonprofit called The Truth Project, dedicated to helping mothers who had been victims of custody fraud. She worked with the FBI, providing testimony and support to other families, and slowly the legal system began to change. Preston was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for his role in the conspiracy. Kane received 12 years. Strauss lost his license and got 6 years. Gloria Winters got 4. And Rachel? She got her life back. She got her children back. And she got justice. Today, Rachel Bennett lives in Flagstaff with Emma and Noah, now 9 and 7. She remarried 2 years ago to a high school teacher named Oliver, a kind man who loves her children as if they were his own. She still runs the Truth Project, which has helped over 200 families navigate custody battles and expose corruption. Emma is thriving in school. Noah's speech has improved dramatically, and both children know that their mother fought harder than anyone to keep them safe. Rachel's story is a reminder that even when the system is rigged, even when the odds are impossible, even when everyone tells you to give up,
The truth has power, and a mother's love is the strongest force on earth. If you've been moved by Rachel's courage, if you've been inspired by her refusal to back down, leave a comment and let me know. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And remember to subscribe to After Dark Stories, because we bring you the real accounts of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Rachel Bennett didn't just win a custody battle. She took down an empire of corruption and saved countless families in the process. And it all started with a nanny cam and a mother who refused to give up. Justice doesn't always wear a black robe. Sometimes it wears the exhausted face of a mother who will do anything to protect her children. Never give up, never stop fighting, and never underestimate the power of the truth. Thank you for watching, and remember, the truth always finds a way.